I did say I was going to post this stuff, dude. But let me do something and like a boy kisses a girl, dude.
I was born with a condition called alopecia, which means my hair follicles just weren't working and I never grew any hair on my head. So I was basically bald for most of my life because there's different types of alopecia. There's one where your hair can grow back and fall out, and there's one where it doesn't grow back. And I had that type, so it was pretty hard, like having no hair for most of my childhood. And I had to wear wigs and stuff, and it just wasn't very good. Whenever I was at sleepovers, they'd be like, oh my god, we should do our hair. And I just couldn't get my hair done because I didn't have any. And there was a few times where there were bullies and people were mean to me. Like one time in school, a boy pulled my wig off in front of everyone and everyone stared. It wasn't good. And then there's like a few times where I was confident enough to go out with no hair without putting on my wig, and there'd be people staring, pointing, laughing, and it was sad. But the good things that came with having no hair were I never got head lice. Like I remember getting a note home saying, there's head lice in your class, you should check your child's hair and stuff. And I never had to get checked, and I never had to get treated. I never had head lice because I just didn't have hair. And I'm also on a website called the Rapunzel Foundation where children can donate their hair to people that don't have it. And actually, when I turned 10, my hair started to grow again, and I was like, this is so weird, why is this happening? And it grew and it grew and it kept growing, and then I got some hair extensions when it was long enough, and I had them for about a year. And then I decided I don't want them anymore, I want my own hair. And so I got them out, I got my hair trimmed, and it was just like a dream come true. I'd never gone out with my own head of hair, and it was just so great. And I was so happy, I was so confident.
Next one.
Oh my god, and we totally jumped off the cliff and had to swim all the way ashore.
A few years ago, we were visiting some relatives for the 4th of July, and they have this house that's right on the lake, so it was awesome. I could have picnics, go swimming, and watch the city's fireworks without having to deal with all the big crowds. So I'm sitting on a blanket with my cousins Josh and Michaela, watching the fireworks, and I think to myself, this is the best 4th of July ever. As soon as the fireworks show was over, I'm getting ready to get up, but my cousin Josh pulls me back down and says, wait a minute, the show's not over. I'm like, what? He says, our neighbors always get all these illegal fireworks, and they're gonna launch them now. Well, that sounded a little bit of a red flag, but also really exciting. So we sit back down, and right at that moment, they launched the first firework. And these guys, they had so many fireworks. Like, they were just lined up all down the beach. And it was really cool to see a second fireworks show. Slight problem with illegal fireworks, they might just be defective. One firework launched, and I could see the little fireball thing going in the air, but then something went wrong. It only rose about 2 feet before exploding. Suddenly the air was just filled with these metal flaming balls hurtling toward us. Me and Josh just dove under the blanket, and I could hear it whistling as it sailed inches above my head. But my cousin Michaela was not so lucky. The fireball hit her right in the head and set her hair on fire. Luckily, it extinguished pretty quickly, but not without causing damages. She was crying so hard, and there were burns on her neck. Michaela was really scared for a while, but we calmed her down by singing Baby You're a Firework by Katy Perry, because she literally was a firework. About half of her hair was burned off. And when we came home, it was just so uneven and scorched and falling out. Luckily, her mom was able to save it, and she had to cut it short, but at least it was treatable. Luckily, everything healed just fine, but it was just so terrifying just to think that that could have been me. It was so close. And I guess those neighbors didn't learn their lesson because they still buy illegal fireworks, but now for 4th of July, we go to other places. And that's my story. Stay away from illegal fireworks, kids.
guys involved in mine,
Oh my
guys.
god, and we totally jumped off the cliff and had to swim all the way to
I'm gonna do more than this, guys.
On Friday the 13th, my friends and I decided to plan a sleepover. So we decided to have it at my friend Marissa's house. So we were at her house and we had some dinner. It was really good. We actually had some masticholi. We were just sitting at the table talking, and one of my other friends, we'll call her Haley, she was like, oh my gosh, we should go play the Ouija board now, because they knew that I brought it. So I was like, okay, let's go in the basement, it'll be like fun. So we're playing, and I start getting really freaked out. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get possessed, like, oh my gosh. Because I was so scared that, like, because we talked to this really mean ghost. I thought we were, but it was really spelling something else out. Tears are, like, streaming down my face, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, so I kept saying, like, I could see it. It was, like, in the mirror. It was really scary. So then I was like, we need to talk to it again to see what it wants. We talked to this ghost named Dan, and his wife's name is Gina, and he kept saying 40 cuts in the bathtub, and then like 790. We looked it up, it means love and like comfort. So we were like, do you want us to love you? And he said he has a daughter. And eventually we got this story that he had a daughter, and she was like kidnapped, and then she like killed herself, I guess. She died, and it was really, really sad. So we felt bad, and I kept wanting us to dig him up. He said he was under the house, he was under the floor. So like I was getting really scared, and like he said the ghost girl's name was Erin, and she was 12, and she was turning 13 the next day. So we were like, do you want us to sing happy birthday? And he said yes, and we said at midnight. He said no, and I said what time? And he said 6. So I was like, oh gosh, we have to wake up at 6 in the morning. So then like everyone started getting creeped out, so we had to like stop because not everyone was comfortable with it. So we stopped playing, and I put it away, and I was terrified. I was like, I'm not comfortable with some of the things he said. I was just like really upset. So I called my sister, and I was like, dude, this is what happened. And I told her the story, and I was like, I am so scared. I was crying. Like, it was bad. I was crying really hard, and I was like, I don't want to get possessed. So she's like, oh, it'll be okay. Just be glad that you said goodbye. I mean, you're still stupid. And I was like, okay. So I hung up on her because I was mad. And I just got so scared, and my anxiety got really bad that I was like, I can't sleep over. So I texted my mom, and my mom is like, okay, I'll come and get you. And my mom, she took me home, and she's like, leave that board in the garage. It is not coming in the house. So I was like, okay. When I woke up at 7, and I did sing happy birthday to Erin because I promised Dan that I'd sing at 6. So I sang happy birthday, and I'm good. I just don't like being home alone like I am right now. But that's my story of my scary Ouija board.
That's not gonna be it, guys. I'm really good. I love these stories. I might do that one again.
About a year ago, my great-grandmother died. Everyone was pretty devastated, especially my mom, who was really close to my great-grandmother. A few days after her funeral, we saw a dime on our kitchen table randomly. I didn't think anything of it, but the moment my mom saw the dime, she started crying her heart out again, as she had been doing the past few days. I asked her why she was crying over a dime on the table, and she told me a story that if dead loved ones wanted to try and communicate with living relatives, they would leave dimes around the house for them. I immediately started thinking about paranormal things I've seen on YouTube. And I guess I found it pretty cool. And honestly, I found dimes everywhere. That was actually starting to creep me out a little bit. Like, I went to my friend's house, and there was a random dime sitting on her bed. As I went home from my friend's house that night, I told my mom out loud that I was starting to get a little bit creeped out by all the dimes. And the moment I said that, the dimes never showed up again. Which creeped me out even more because it's as if she was hearing me say that I didn't want the dimes around anymore, and she listened to me. But then, other than the dimes, I also was pretty creeped out around my own house. I was sitting at my computer one day, and all of a sudden I heard footsteps and loud noises from behind me. I turned around and there was no one there. I didn't think much of it until all of a sudden the noises got louder and louder, as if they were coming closer and closer to me. I started panicking, and as they got louder and louder, I ran into my room that was across the hall and slammed the door behind me. I was pretty scared. I haven't been disturbed since, and I still do miss my great-grandmother. I do hope that she's still watching over me, and hope she knows that I was just a little creeped out back then. And that if she does want to bring those dimes back, she can go right on ahead. I wouldn't mind.
You want money, dude? And guys, if you want to see somebody beat Baldi's Basics, look up Denny's beat Baldi's Basics. Don't worry. I'm just helping a YouTuber out, okay? It's not copyright, because I'm not watching it. I can't show this because it is a YouTube channel with
At
nobody's
IKEA,
face on
we
it.
believe that everything you need should be within reach.
They
In an
will-
affordable dream kitchen that works as hard as you do.
Like, it is
Start planning
copyright,
your-
guys. I'm just doing it so you can know that.
My best friend, who we'll call Kayla, wanted me and our other friend, who we'll call Lily, to come over for a sleepover. One of the things we did was watch a bunch of nursery rhymes for kids. I don't know why, but we were watching them anyway. One of them was about a mother cat and her kittens, and the kittens had done something naughty, and the mother cat goes, meow, 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 you shall have no pie. And Kayla stops and she goes, Danny roams the house till like 3 a.m. singing, meow, 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 you shall have no pie. And Lily and I look at each other like, that's creepy. Because Kayla's little brother, Danny, is adorable, not creepy at all. So for him to be singing a song at 3 a.m. in the morning is kind of weird. So we decided to make alternate versions of what he was singing. Like, what if he's saying, meow, 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 I just found the knife. Or what if he's singing, meow, 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 be prepared to die. It's morbid, I know, but I guess it was fun to scare each other. Anyways, it was much later. Kayla had been asleep, leaving Lily and I to talk. So it's 2 a.m. and we are talking about ghosts and things like that. And then we look across the hall where Danny's room is. It has a baby gate in the doorway, which was open, and we both noticed that at the same time, and Lily goes, I'm gonna shut that. So she goes over and she shuts and she locks the baby gate. She came back in and we talked for about 10 more minutes when we hear 2 sobs come from the end of the hall, and then a couple seconds of silence. And Lily and I look at each other like, what? And then we hear the sound of Danny getting up and walking to the baby gate. And we hear him laughing. It's weird for a 2-year-old to be laughing at nothing at 2 a.m. in the morning. We're a bit scared when we hear this smash and Lily throws the rug over her head. And I look. Danny has thrown the baby gate that was locked and shut. He's thrown it open with such force that it smashed against the wall. And he just walks out, and I flop onto the bed and pretend to be asleep, even though I'm still watching him. And I watch as he looks around and then starts coming towards the room we are in. And Lily and I were both pretending to be asleep, and we're just like, oh my God, this baby is possessed. How did he do that? So he comes in and he just goes to Lily and he just lays down with her. And we talked for another hour, keeping Danny awake to make sure he was not possessed. And then when it was time to go to sleep, Danny decided he wanted to sleep with me. So I had to sleep with a maybe possessed 2-year-old for the rest of the night.
But that's gonna be it.
Oh my god, we totally jumped off the cliff and had to zoom all